Happy holidays, Josh.
Boy, oh boy, is it winter in Wisconsin.
Well, it's winter with no snow, which makes it the most depressing kind of winter.
It's true.
Which is appropriate for the movie Blood Beat.
Just bald, empty Wisconsin. If you ever wondered what it looks like, this is what it looks like here.
You know, a few months ago, Mike and Rich put out a review episode about the Jerry Springer Show.
Oh, yes.
And we jokingly, in the thumbnail for that video, we said, the least viewed episode ever. And I think this is going to be the real least viewed video ever. Because we're talking about Blood Beat, a movie that nobody's seen or heard about.
But we want to get you excited to watch Blood Beat, whatever it is. Whatever this movie is. And I've seen it a few times. I got a lot of questions for you, Jay.
Well, it's a Christmas movie. It's become a Christmas tradition for me. I watch it almost every year now. I saw it, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago for the first time.
Yeah, how did you find this?
I don't remember how I think I was just like looking online for kind of more obscure, because I love Christmas horror movies. And so I was just looking for like Christmas horror movies I hadn't seen before.
Okay.
And I stumbled across this DVD copy. This was all that was available at the time. There might have been like a VHS rip on YouTube or something.
Okay.
But this looks like a bootleg that you would get at like a convention.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it does have a barcode.
Oh.
And this company, Apprehensive Films, that we have a couple other releases by them.
Huh.
So.
Okay.
And I did at one point contact the guy from Apprehensive Films because I was trying to get in touch with the director of Blood Beat.
Right.
And he was very helpful.
Okay.
So it's like he was in contact with the director. I think it was like an official release. It was just a movie so obscure that nobody cared about, and the only company that they could get to release it is Apprehensive Films, which I don't even think is around anymore.
Does it look like does the print look like it's from a VHS? Or?
It's a VHS rip. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But for the longest time, this is the only way it was available. And then a few years ago, Vinegar Syndrome put out a Blu-ray.
Scanned from the negative.
Cleaned up.
All fixed up except for the credits.
Except for the last shot that goes into the credits. I guess I couldn't find the elements for that.
I guess. Or it was just that bad. I suppose if it was stored tails out, maybe that had the most rot on it.
But the rest of it, pretty good.
Yeah.
Not completely, there's some scratches here and there, but...
Definitely watchable.
It's better than the Apprehensive Films version. Which I don't even think this artwork... I think that's stolen from another movie. I think this is from, I want to say Silent Night, Bloody Night?
It could be.
But I could be wrong, but I don't think this was original artwork for Blood Beat.
Oh, dear.
And if you've ever seen the theatrical poster for Blood Beat, I don't know what's going on it.
You want to talk about what Blood Beat is?
I guess we should start with, because out of everything we've ever talked about in review, this is probably the thing that the fewest people have seen.
Sure.
Next to maybe Star Trek Discovery.
Would you like to join me in making little scream? Yum, yum.
So a little bit of backstory on the filmmaker and the movie itself, because they kind of one goes into the other.
Yeah.
The director of the movie is a man named... Fabrice Zafiratos.
Which seems like it should be a Greek name.
He was born in Vietnam, grew up in France. Somehow, in his early 20s, he doesn't explain how, he just ended up in Wisconsin. And he met a lady, some mysterious lady, I don't know who she is, but they were dating, and she had a little bit of money. And so they decided to use that money to make a movie, even though he did not grow up with aspirations to be a filmmaker. They just decided to make this movie.
That's so weird. Like his dad produced a couple movies, right?
His dad was apparently a filmmaker.
Okay, so maybe had a little bit of the idea in his head.
I guess he said at one point he wanted to be an actor. He never did that.
Okay,
but he was more into like sci-fi and comic books and stuff like that. But as was often the case in the early '80s. You make a low-budget horror movie because those are easier to sell.
That's true, yes.
The classic kind of Evil Deads.
Drive-in, second feature.
Yeah, exactly.
No money, and you maybe you make your money back if you're lucky. Hopefully, I don't know if this did.
They can't all be Evil Dead. It's a weird movie, which I guess now is a good time to point out, a good time as any. we're showing clips from this, and it probably looks like it should be on Best of the Worst. But it's not funny. It wouldn't be funny to watch in a group setting. It's more just kind of fascinating.
Yeah, you wouldn't be making, you'd be, cracking a joke here and there, but for the most part, you'd just be like.
And the story of Bloodbeat is it's a family on Christmas. Mm-hmm. You have the mom, her 2 children, her boyfriend.
Yep.
She's divorced, I guess. They don't really say what happened to the husband.
No idea. He's not there.
But the son is bringing home his girlfriend to meet the family for the first time. And while she's there, they discover a samurai armor suit in a trunk right next to the bed. The samurai suit gets inhabited by a ghost and starts killing neighbors. Mm-hmm. And that's the movie.
Yeah.
It's a classic, okay, we're going to make a low-budget slasher movie. Like we said, you do horror movies because that's what makes money. But somewhere along the way, they started to get more abstract, more surreal, and it isn't really a Christmas slasher anymore.
No, it barely matters. Really, it's less a Christmas slasher and more a hunting season slasher. That's way more important than the fact that it's Christmas, is that it is hunting season.
It is hunting season, which is why up until this Blu-ray, I assumed I didn't know anything about the filmmaker. I assumed he grew up in Wisconsin because this movie is so Wisconsin.
It really is.
And it has such an understanding of, like, I grew up, in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. I grew up around hunters. It wasn't uncommon to go over to someone's house and there'd just be a deer carcass hanging in their garage. This is all so familiar.
Yep, just like the beginning of this movie. It's like, first thing you get to see is the inside of a deer. Like, oh, yeah, mm-hmm. And seriously, anyone from Wisconsin is just like not fazed by that in the least.
Yeah.
We've all seen it 100 times at least.
But to be fair to the filmmakers, they didn't kill an animal for the movie. Mm-mm. They contacted the local whatever department. You got a dead deer? Because there's roadkill all the time out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And they waited weeks until they finally got a call back saying, we got a deer for you. All right. So that's the deer that's hanging up in the movie. It was already dead.
We could talk about, let's talk about some of the actors. This is a classic unknown, like you go to the IMDb page and everybody has one credit, and here it is.
Yeah.
Apart from a couple people.
Well, the couple, the mom and the boyfriend, they weren't, I guess you said he went on to be an actor, but at the time they weren't professional actors. Everyone else they actually cast.
Okay.
But those two are just people that the director befriended in his time in Wisconsin, and according to him, that's just how they are.
What's the matter? Honey, you've seen all kinds of dead deer before. Honey.
I'm sorry.
Now calm down. You got a bad migraine?
Like a big inspiration for the movie, the mom is a painter. She's very hippie-like, which we'll talk about some of the maybe themes of this movie. But she's a painter.
Yeah.
And all those paintings that are hanging around the house are that woman's actual paintings.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that was a big inspiration for the entire movie, apparently.
Yeah, this seems that's interesting that there was something else that was inspiring this movie. This movie seems like we've seen a bunch of movies over the years, particularly cheap horror movies that seem based on we have this thing and we can make a movie.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the samurai suit.
The killer, the slasher of the movie is a ghost samurai.
Why?
Well, according to the director, why not?
All right.
Why is there a samurai in Wisconsin? Why not? But apparently, the original idea was it was just going to be a supernatural slasher, some sort of ghost that was killing people.
Okay.
But shortly before production, he was in an antique store in Chicago and saw this suit of armor and said, we'll use that as the killer.
Sure.
So the killer of the movie is a samurai.
Just because it was there.
It was serendipitous.
All right, okay. I can accept that. I could accept it a little more if there weren't these tenuous connections at the very end to make something of it.
Yeah.
That's real confusing.
Well, I learned a lot from the commentary track, and the commentary track is in French with subtitles, so you actually really have to pay attention. But for everything that he answers, it just raises more questions.
Okay.
But one thing that he did make clear is that the suit of armor that is in this house belongs to the mom, and it was handed down generation to generation because one of her ancestors killed that samurai in a battle. And that's why they have the samurai suit. There's nothing in the movie to support this. This is just what the director says.
Well, there might be something in the dialogue in that last bit, but it's hard to tell because you cannot hear a word either of them is saying.
No, you can't destroy me.
And that's a detriment. I will say one of the biggest problems I had with this movie overall is that the audio is not good.
And he admits that too. He says they were, pretty inexperienced. They didn't have the time or budget to go back and do ADR. So it's just like what we got is what we got.
You know I wouldn't do something like this. Ted, you know. He wouldn't take me away from you, and he would never take you and Dolly away from me. What?
Yeah, it's the biggest hurdle I think to watch in the movie.
It's not a problem with a lot of the movie because the movie, like we said, it starts with the hunting, and so much of it almost feels very like documentary style.
Yeah.
Where it almost doesn't even matter what they're saying through a lot of the movie.
Well, even when things are happening, it doesn't, like the dialogue doesn't matter so much because it's so based in the visuals and the effects and the samurai thing and everything. But yeah, it doesn't. It's not unsatisfactory because you don't really know what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's fine. I mean, it's more about what you're looking at than what what the plot is.
Yeah.
I'd like you to meet Sarah, Mom.
You understand right at the beginning that the mom has some sort of fucking psychic issue with this girlfriend because the mom is also psychic. But she definitely, because this is the first time the family's meeting the girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And the minute that the mom meets her, she's like, something's wrong with this girl.
Yeah, immediately.
And then the girl has a psychic connection of her own with the samurai ghost.
Yeah, which, whoops. Did you, was it predestined that she was going to end up at this house eventually?
But it's a very, very strong psychic connection.
She starts having orgasms.
Yes, when the samurai ghost kills people, she psychically is linked to it and has an orgasm.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in the movie to indicate that she knows this is happening. Like, she doesn't know that the killer is killing people. It's just those things are just linked somewhere in the back of her mind, I guess. Because it's not like she's having an orgasm because of the killing, I don't think.
I don't think so. It just seems, it just links up. Somehow.
She's having some sort of intense reaction.
Yeah.
Doesn't know what it is, I guess.
Yeah, well, she's already got tendencies towards it too. Like, she can sense, I don't think she's got the connection with the mom, but she can sense that the mom has the psychic visions and can see what's going on. She's like, when the first day they arrive, that she and the boyfriend are upstairs trying to, get it on. And she's like, but she's right in the room. I can just feel her. She's right in the room.
It's like I feel she's in the room right now. In the room with us.
Oh, come on, Sarah. She's downstairs in her studio, Pam.
I just feel it, Ted. I don't...
And so she's got the sense of it.
Yeah.
About 90% of the psychic scenes with the mom, is her seeing stuff, whatever, and then somebody's like, are you okay? And she's like, I can't tell you. I can't tell you. I just can't tell you. Can you tell us? I'd like to know. Yeah. I'm curious.
Well, it's all there, Josh. It's all there visually.
Okay,
You just have to interpret it on your own. But speaking of the samurai suit, also going along with talking about the visuals of the movie, the ghost effects are so interesting. They create a look, kind of like the whole, even like the idea of it being a samurai suit. It's like you could streamline this movie if it was just some sort of ghost.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a samurai suit makes it so weird and memorable.
Yeah.
And same with the ghost effects. So it looks like someone's just drawing on the film.
Frame by frame.
Yeah.
Which I don't doubt is what it was.
I think they said it's every 4 or 5 frames. So they must have had a clear cell, almost like an animation cell.
Oh, wow.
That they put over it. Because you see it it moves. It's not like every frame. It
Yeah.
moves differently than the actual movie as far as.
Yes, that's true. I forgot about that.
Which makes it even weirder looking.
Yeah.
But it's just this weird blue light.
in
and
just general areas.
there's kind of some rotoscoping around, like there's like a close-up of the hand with the sword in it, but it never quite matches up.
No. But it matches up with like kind of there's solarization effects when the samurai's going through the woods during the day.
Yeah.
And when that's really interesting actually. The POV for some reason at night clear as day, regular colors. During the daytime, solarization, all sorts of weird effects going on with the samurai. I guess maybe the sunlight is doing weird things to him. I don't know.
He needs to get those, like when you get your eyes dilated,
Oh, yep.
those big sunglasses they give you.
That's what he needs.
He needs some of those.
Get him some blue blockers.
They wrap around your head.
To be.
I will say that visually, the hunting actually is a lot more exciting than what I have known of hunting, which is just you go to your stand and you sit and wait for the deer to come. They're chasing.
He mentioned that on the commentary track, because at first I was like, this isn't how you hunt. Like, you don't just wander around the woods with guns.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you get in a tree stand and you sit there for hours. And the director mentions that. He's like, I know that that's how you really hunt, but that's boring, and this is a movie.
Which is exactly what I was going to say. It's way more dynamic to have them, tracking down, going around, doing the whole thing. The second plot point, apart from the girl arrives and things are psychic problems, is they all go out hunting, except for the mom. She's painting and do not bother her. So they all go out hunting, including Sally, the girlfriend. She's like, I don't like hunting. I really don't want to be doing this.
I don't like hunting.
This is what we do in Wisconsin.
Yeah, which, again, behavior-wise, I get that.
Yeah,
Not
that's the
surprised.
thing is, like, you could say, like, not all the acting is great. These are all amateur actors, but again, going back to Evil Dead, people love Evil Dead, even though the acting in that movie is mostly terrible.
Yeah.
And this is a case where all that stuff, even though the acting isn't great, it does feel very natural. And it feels very real with her, this, like, the girlfriend going along hunting. She's not sure about this, but everybody else is, you can tell they do this every weekend.
Yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Uncle Pete's here. We're all gonna go hang out and ride horses and go shoot things. And and it builds to this climax, which actually I really like the tension of that scene.
God damn!
Finally, she freaks out and yells no and runs away.
Yeah.
And runs into somebody that's just been eviscerated and runs out of the woods and is just like, ack.
Yeah, and that's before the ghost samurai comes to life,
Yeah.
right? I don't know who that guy is.
Dead guy in the woods.
It's a harbinger of things to come, I guess.
I guess. It does seem like, well, I mean, it plot-wise, it does get her to be isolated from the rest of the family. Because she freaks out and it's just like, okay, put her to bed while, you and me and the cat play Monopoly. You kids go ahead and play your Monopoly with the cat. He's not going to do a good job. He's already lying on Park Place. He's a bad banker.
Yeah, can we mention the cat? That's immediate 10 out of 10 movie for me now because you got a cat.
Love that cat.
Trying to sleep on the Monopoly board while they're setting it up. And that's another little chunk of the movie that again feels very, when I say like it feels like this guy grew up in Wisconsin, where you have like family get-togethers where it's like not the dad, but the boyfriend is just trying to watch TV with headphones on. The mom's doing her own thing on the couch. The kids are sitting on the ground playing Monopoly. Like
Totally real.
they're in the same room, but they're all just doing their own thing. And then the girlfriend, completely isolated, where it's like you have this family unit, and then the girlfriend is like the other. She's an outsider.
the interloper, yeah.
And that's why the mom immediately has like a bad feeling about her. And then she ends up having this psychic connection with the samurai, who apparently was in some sort of battle with this family at some point in history. So there's something going on about war and about outsiders, and we're our own group. These are people invading our ground, our home.
Kind.
There's something there.
It's all very vague. Everything in this movie is very hinted at.
Yeah.
There could be an interesting thing where, like, when they show up with the girlfriend, and the mom's like, she's doing the same thing with the deer right away. And Gary's like, you've seen dead deer 100 times. What the hell? What?
Yeah.
So it's like maybe you could delve into like a Mom Who Cried Wolf kind of thing, where like you don't know who's going to be a problem. Mom's having problems with everybody. Could
They do treat her that way, like, oh, mom's being mom again.
It's really weird, Ted. I feel I've seen her before. And I don't know why. I don't understand it.
Well, it's probably like deja vu or something, you know?
No.
I experience that sometimes when I see somebody and I think I've seen them before.
You know me, Ted. It's more than deja vu. I've seen her before.
I assume they're used to it because Mom's been psychic their whole life.
Yeah.
And they know it, and they just don't really want to tell anybody, which becomes evident later in the film.
Sure.
Come in, Ted. Red Baron to Lone Ranger. This is an emergency. Mayday, mayday. Red Baron to Lone Ranger. This is an emergency.
Uncle Pete has somehow gotten his truck in the ditch, and something slashes his throat.
The first time I saw the movie was on the VHS rip, and it's so dark during that scene that I assumed I was just missing visual information because it was so dark, but I wasn't.
It's not there.
It's just not there.
No.
But that's the first killing by the samurai ghost.
Yeah, you get, but at least you're getting the idea that unlike the guy who died out in the woods, like something's doing this. There's something supernatural-ish.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe you're seeing through the killer's eyes, like it's an actual, you know, like a corporeal person.
It feels like that scene in particular feels like a typical low-budget slasher movie scene.
Yeah.
Before things get really fucking weird.
Yeah,
but,
which happens pretty quick.
Can we talk about the bedroom, by the way?
Yeah.
The bedroom that the son and his girlfriend stay in.
Yeah.
You can tell, not just that bedroom, I guess, but the whole house. It's like, this is not set decoration.
Oh, no.
This is just that house.
There is Sanka and and dehydrated. Oh God, there's fucking dehydrated orange juice in the other house. But that's totally took me back to the '80s. Just like that's what orange juice used to be like. You couldn't just get it at the store.
Where's my orange juice? You forgot my orange juice.
Look, but I didn't forget anything. I'm just
Get my orange juice.
around all the time.
And like in movie terms, that dehydrated orange juice. If you have a scene where it's like, first of all, it seems like the guy should be like, go get me a beer. But for whatever reason, he's like, go get me orange juice.
Where's my tea?
And just for simplicity's sake, in a movie, you would generally just have her go out and pour the drink. But they go through this whole process of showing her
Getting the balance
scooping
right.
out the orange juce.
She pours the water in, tastes it. She's like, nah, I didn't get that right. More.
We got to see the whole thing.
We might as well.
But
we gotta have time to care about this character because she's about to die.
Yeah.
And they, you know, the dog and the tea are both on the waterbed at the same time, which seems like a bad idea. But I guess worse things could be happening, and they do.
Yeah, but that house, that kitchen, like that's just what that kitchen looked like.
Yeah, it's
but the bedroom
great.
specifically there's this really skinny pole.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. It's not like a load-bearing thing.
No, it seems like it should be like a remnant of that being an attic that was turned into a bedroom, but that should be larger.
Yeah.
That's just,
It's so skinny. I don't know what the fuck that is.
I don't know.
And it's right in the center of the room, so anytime you try and frame a shot in there, it's always there.
stuck. You got to go around.
There's nothing you can do about it.
That reminds me of the other thing too that feeds into Sarah has psychic whatnot going on is when she first goes into that room, she's like, nah, I don't like this, and she's hearing like babies crying.
Mm-hmm.
Still some old stuff from old friend of mine.
And that really doesn't go anywhere exactly.
Those are the sounds of crying children that lost their parents during war. I mean, they do, the director does make a point of mentioning on right behind the bed, there's like a little Woodstock, like, it's not like a poster, it's like a wood thing.
Yeah.
But it's got the Woodstock symbol on
Yes.
it, the guitar with the bird. And he makes a point of mentioning that and pointing it out. So that's important, because Woodstock was about, hippies and anti-war, and so there's something there. I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting, because that's definitely something I would have thought was just in that house.
Yeah, like everything else.
Just, the hippie lady that wears fucking blankets all the time. Maybe she went to Woodstock.
Sure.
And you wants to remember that along with France and her paintings.
Well, I think
that's all
that,
that's on the wall.
if I'm not mistaken, like I said, there's a lot of things in the commentary that are explained, but a lot of it that's very vague and just raises more questions. But I think that house was her house in real life.
Okay.
So that Woodstock thing might have just been there, and he just made a point of making sure that it showed up on camera really well. And I mean, there's no close-ups of it or anything. It's just in the background, but
it's clear.
It's important to him.
He kills the next door neighbor just as he's gotten over to their house, so they can have a real cool shock zoom of his bloody face hanging through the window.
Yeah,
which is great.
I want to talk about that, the like aesthetics of the movie. There's some scenes and some shots that are really good, and then there's others like when the truck is in the ditch where you can't even see what the fuck is happening.
Yeah, I assume that's down to they couldn't get the power out there to wherever they were.
It could be
to get it lit properly.
But even like shot compositions, like the shot when the boyfriend comes into the bedroom and the mom's in the doorway and she's in complete silhouette.
Yeah.
And there's this light shining in and everything's it has like a glow to it. Like it's legitimately nice looking. Mm-hmm. And there's other shots in the movie like that too. And
Absolutely.
then there are other shots that are just really crappy.
Just flat nothing.
It's so all over the place.
And you can't necessarily blame it on budget or lighting. Because there are some of them that like, well, if you're in the house, you have the lights that you had for this other shot. Mm-hmm. What's going on here? And just like, didn't think about it, maybe.
Inconsistent, I guess, just like tone and what's going on with the story.
Yeah. Well, part of it is I get the idea that there wasn't necessarily a lot of communication between the crew, because as I understand it, the cinematographer thought it was being shot for television.
Yeah.
And that's why it's 4:3?
It's 4:3. The director didn't realize it was being shot in that aspect ratio until like 15 days into the production.
Because nobody discussed it.
What do you think I am anyway? Some kind of a piece of plastic that you can just push around and then dispose of me when I'm all finished?
Right after the neighbor does the smash cut to the smash zoom to his face, the house starts shaking.
This is a very Evil Dead sequence, yeah.
That's when we start to bring things a little bit together, where obviously the mom is having some sort of fight with this ghost. No! She's not unfamiliar. Like she knows something of what this is.
Well, it's a part of her ancestry, apparently.
Yeah, so this is part of what she can't tell anybody about.
I guess.
But she definitely you leave us alone.
That's you get another weird animated effect on her hands.
Yeah, with the energy. And that's why I was comfortable with that effect, because it's just energy to me.
Well, and it's kind of like when we talked about like the return, like Twin Peaks: The Return, and the effects in that.
Yeah.
In that, it's like they're intentionally not realistic. Here, I think it might just be a budget thing, but it works in the movie's favor.
Yeah.
Where it's like it just becomes its own style. And same with the music too, because the music is a combination of electronic score done by the director.
Please.
And because they had no money, just using a bunch of classical music.
Most of it really inappropriate. I was ready to be just extremely annoyed by the electronic score, because right at the beginning, it's synth bloops and someone just beating the shit out of a reverb tank. I'm just like, you stop that right now. Oh my God. I'm gonna shut the fucking movie off.
That becomes a part of the movie style. It creates an atmosphere.
Well, luckily he's not beating on the reverb tank for much longer in the movie. More synth bloops.
Okay.
I'm okay with synth bloops.
All right.
It's more that just like. Yeah, these completely inappropriate classical compositions he didn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
Including one of my favorite uses of Carmina Burana ever. This is somewhere down in Texas. They, I think, independent of all the Vinegar Syndrome stuff, they knew of it, but somebody cut together this. They called it a silent version. There's no dialogue, and all the music has been replaced by a band that happened to be friends of mine, this band called Nervous Curtains. And I heard of that completely separately. I heard about it through them. It's just like, oh, and what's this movie? Blood Beat? Fucking crazy. And so it's on the Blu-ray. You can watch the movie with that score. You can go on their Bandcamp and download it, and it's super good. If you're into that, the John Carpenter style, synthwave or whatever they're calling it these days. Now it's a genre. I don't fucking know. But they did a very good job of scoring this movie, and I think that would really, if the movie had a more appropriate score, it would definitely work a lot better.
Well, speaking of that, the idea of remaking this movie has been something that's been in my brain over the years. I looked up, just in preparation for this, I was looking over the IMDb page. Years ago, I mentioned, just casually, that I want to remake this movie.
Oh.
And now that's on IMDb Trivia.
There's your lesson, kids, about IMDb trivia.
Yeah. But in rewatching it, I mean, I've watched it many times now, but in rewatching it this most recent time, I realized the perfect director to do a remake for it is Panos Cosmatos, who did Beyond the Black Rainbow and Mandy with Nicolas Cage. I think he could really do something interesting with it. I was thinking of him specifically, the scene with the 3 rednecks hanging around the campfire. I don't know if you've seen Beyond the Black Rainbow, but towards the end of that movie, there's these 2 metalhead kids sitting around a campfire, and then the main villain of the movie shows up and kills them. It reminded me a lot of that scene in this movie. And I think taking this weird stuff that maybe doesn't make a lot of sense and just heightening all the visuals of it and doing it in an even more abstract way. Yeah, that's one of those things. I mean, it would turn it into something else because, we talked about the classical music is sort of part of what makes the movie so unique and interesting and weird.
Yeah.
And the same with if you were to redo it, you could get rid of the samurai altogether. And it's just a spirit, because that would streamline things. But it would also make it less weird.
Yeah, there's a samurai again, and at the end, when things are kind of coming together. And, we find out the whole reason that the samurai has been attacking the family, except we don't. And there's footage cut in of World War II.
Yeah.
And that's why...
Because that's, I guess, when the mom's ancestor killed the samurai, was during World War II.
But couldn't have been, because they didn't really have samurai like that in World War II, I don't think. I mean, prove me wrong, internet, but I kind of thought it was more like a feudal thing.
Don't tell that to the director.
I can't tell anything to the director. I don't want to.
He wouldn't understand you anyway, because he doesn't speak English.
I don't speak that Moon Man language.
The girlfriend and the samurai become one. They have this weird psychic connection, but now she physically becomes the samurai.
Yes, somehow.
She has the makeup and everything.
She burns a picture with her hand, and then Ted goes energy blob at her, and then she goes energy blob at him, and he falls over, and then she goes and becomes the samurai.
Well, the energy blob thing, we do realize towards the end of the movie that the kids have more psychic abilities than we've been led to believe.
Yes.
Before it's like, oh, the mom, she's crazy, she has these weird psychic things. Then you realize that's just a whole family thing.
Yep.
And the daughter becomes an actual character. She has almost nothing to do for the first half of the movie.
And then all of a sudden...
She becomes, right around the time when she's not wearing pants, and she isn't for the rest of the movie, just a large t-shirt and leg warmers.
Yep,
that's when she becomes a real character.
I think that whole setup with the 2 of them, I really like them as brother and sister. I think it worked really well. They kind of look like each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's good casting.
And she looks like a typical Midwest girl that age. That's another thing is the girlfriend, she's got darker hair, it's short hair, it's very different. She's kind of
standing out. Like Dolly's you knew 50 of her in high school.
Yes, exactly. So that's Bloodbeat. It's an unconventional movie. It's the simplest way to explain it. I was looking up, like I said, I went to IMDb. I was just looking up random shit about the movie, and most of the reviews are pretty low, of course. They're it's boring, it's boring. If you're watching it expecting some sort of Christmas slasher movie, this isn't Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's barely even Christmas related.
Yeah, and it still works. I like the desolation. When the neighbors, those are supposed to be the next door neighbors, and he's got to drive quarter mile.
I know what that's like.
Oh yeah, and that's it. The setting actually helps it a lot, where it's just makes sense that they're all closed in here, even though there's no snow anywhere. Like, where else are you gonna go?
Yeah.
It's Christmas.
Well, and all the establishing shots are like the landscape shots of just like the fields during the day, and there's no one there. And it's not nice looking. Like it just looks cold and miserable like Wisconsin does. It's one of the movies, it's maybe captured Wisconsin better than any other movie I've ever seen, as far as what it actually feels like to be in those areas of Wisconsin in the winter.
You really could do a double feature with Strosek. But you could do a double feature with the Herzog movie that he shot here, because it looks like that too. It's just like the emptiness of the middle of Wisconsin in the winter, but there's no snow in that either, and it's just dead, flat, bland, empty. That's very well captured in this movie.
And then occasionally you come across a deer hanging from a tree.
Oh,
there it is.
all the time.
Yeah.
Mom is right. Burn it.
So I don't know who to recommend it to. It's not a funny best of the worst movie. It's not like a fun, cheesy Christmas horror movie. It kind of is. It's David Lynch meets Don Dohler.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
There's weird, surreal things that maybe make sense to the director, not so clear to us, but then there's also people in trucker hats running around the woods. So it's a weird combination of B-movie and incomprehensible, surreal nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it manages to get both of those over really clearly. It's pretty interesting in that. That's the main reason to watch it, I think, is that I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely its own thing.
Oh, Dad.